beginning of the podcast, there was certain nervousness about, like, where's this conversation going to go and like what's going to come up, and just allowing, which was really, really great. I thought I was going to have like take some notes, maybe some points like that, maybe. And then I thought, no, like, just let's see where this goes, because we always have such great conversations anyway. But also, like, the feeling in my body through the conversation has really changed. I feel, in the beginning I had like tightness in my body, and now it's gone, like it's released. And I think that discussing things and like really getting, and that vulnerability word, like, of just, it's like sharing all of this stuff it's a very positive thing to do, and finding words for what's going on. And like, even as we were breaking those things down, I feel it in my body. Wow. And I feel it very like almost like I'm one with this chair right now. Like, I feel so relaxed, and a heaviness, like a very positive relief in my body from the beginning of the podcast to now. And so that's what I want to share. Yeah.
Awesome. It's perfect. I love that.
It is. And it was very fun. And really, the truth is that life is supposed to be fun, period. And so
hello, and welcome to the AM Diaries podcast. My name is Jennifer Westcott, and I'm your host. And today I have the great privilege and honor of introducing and speaking with Tanya Hull. And welcome, Tanya.
thank you.
Yes, and I want to say, just to give a brief kind of background, I've met Tanya, well, I don't know how long ago it was, maybe a couple of years ago. The first time I met her was at a Christmas dinner, and was she and her daughter, and we sat next to each other and got to know each other well. And then it was another year and a half before I saw her again, and we hadn't, for whatever reason, we didn't connect in between. And I saw her at a friend's picnic, and I got to sit next to her then, and we had this great conversation. And one of the things, I'm wearing this swan dress today because I was wearing it at that picnic, and it really stood out to Tanya because she loves swans. And so in honor of Tanya, I'm wearing my swan dress.
Thank you.
And yeah. And
right away.
Yes. And she picked it up right away when I came on the camera, and we saw each other here on Zoom. And the AM Diaries is really about getting to know, talking about, and sharing our journeys, as unique as they are to each and every person, about coming and getting to know, making the shift, maybe from knowing God as an external thing to God within, and knowing that, and having that relationship on a more personal level. And so the I Am Diaries comes from I am that I am, and knowing that I am lives and breathes inside of us and lives through us. And in speaking with Tanya many times through in various places, we've had so many great conversations about this. And so I guess I'd like to start with, something like your eureka moment, Tanya, in when you knew, and one thing that you have told me is that when spirit came to you and told you that life should be fun. Would you like to start from this place and how that came about and how that's playing out in your life?
Yes. So the way that I grew up was I was raised a Jehovah's Witness. So I was from birth, there was no Christmas, no birthday parties, no there were very few celebrations. In fact, like the only things Jehovah's Witnesses celebrate are wedding anniversaries, and one other celebration a year is the memorial of Christ's death. Those are the two celebrations, and of course, they have weddings. But we didn't celebrate our birthdays or any other holidays, like no Mother's Day, no Father's Day, none of it.
Wow.
So there wasn't a lot of really like celebration fun occurrences in through my upbringing. And I was a Jehovah's Witness until I was 28 years old, and then it was a discovering, like a total rediscovering of everything, because I was out of that community. And so and I at that point I was a mother of two, and then there was many things in between, but my eureka moment of really feeling um, God around me was when I was staying the night away from my home. My middle child daughter was doing a house pet sit, and I went to the house for the weekend because it's a beautiful home. And my daughter said, "Why don't you come and stay here at the house sit with me for the weekend?" So my younger daughter and I went and stayed. And in the middle of the night, I woke up because I had went to sleep really early, and so I woke up, and they were now asleep because it was 2 in the morning. And I went out and I had a hot tub by myself, and then I came in and I went and had a shower in their huge steam shower. And it was super like self-care time. And
Right.
so I went in and I laid down on their humongous bed, and after being really hot from the steam and from the hot tub, I was laying there, and I heard without hearing audibly, well, because I pulled the sheets up on myself, and I heard, like I say, without hearing, like laughter. And and I'm looking in the room, and I could see also without really seeing, I could see spirit in the room with me.
Wow.
And at first I was not really, it wasn't fear, but it was, I think, shock, you know. But because I could hear in my, like, I was getting the thoughts into my head, like the answers to what I was thinking without anything audibly being said. So then I was able to ask some questions. And one of the big questions at the time, and I knew that this was the moment to get the answer. So I had been hearing the same song on everywhere I went. And I was even asking other people if they hear this song all the time, because I couldn't understand otherwise, like unless it was just some, like the new song that was being played to, make it super popular. But that wasn't the case. I mean, it was a popular song. The song was by a band called f.u.n, and the song is We Are Young. And so I asked my brother, like, do you hear this song like all the time? Anyway, he's like, I think I know the song, but no. So anyway, but I get in my car, it would be on, and on satellite radio, and go to the grocery store, it would be on. So I looked up the lyrics because I'm like, there's something about it that I'm supposed to pay attention to. And what it turned out to be, well, and there is a really cool hidden lyric in the song that says something about a choir of angels singing, and it doesn't really match the other lyrics of the song. So I thought, well, maybe that's all it is, but it still wasn't sitting well with me. And so now I have this opportunity where spirit is, it felt like there were many individual people or spirit with me in this room. And so I just kept laying there and thinking of the questions, but I know I wasn't saying it out loud. At least I don't think so. And so I said, what's with the song? What's going on with this song, that I hear everywhere? And I got the message that that it needed to be this profound, that I was that I would never forget. And so I said, so what is it? Like, is it the hidden lyric about the angels? And they're like, nope. And I said, okay. And they said, when you see it on your dial and it says little f, little u, little n, period, because I had been looking this up. Like, I couldn't get any answer. I hadn't been asking source. They said, it's the little f, little u, little n, period, that was what the real message of this is, that life is supposed to be fun, period. Because I couldn't understand why there was a period after it on
Yeah.
the message. And so now that I know that life is supposed to be fun, period, I live my life differently.
Oh my goodness. So that's why when you wrote that and you wrote out period at the end, I like it was profound to me, but I didn't understand until now. So that is amazing.
Yeah.
And so
So,
how has that changed your life?
yeah. So now when I'm making decisions and walking through life now, I pay a lot more attention to how I feel. And if things feel like they're going to be fun, then I say yes. And so I say yes to different things now. And and I approach things with a much different attitude than I did in the past. And so I have a lot more fun. Which is really interesting because as a child you think that children naturally know how to have fun, and they skip and they jump and they sing and they generally, but I wasn't that kind of a child. So I think this message was really impactful for me because I was a very serious person. And I mean, I would say it had a lot to do with my upbringing with the religion, but also I was the oldest girl of, I had four younger siblings. I have a brother older, but I have four younger siblings. So I was in a kind of a caregiver role a lot. And
Mhm,
I became a mother young,
mhm.
my own first child. And so I've been in a caregiving role, and I took things very seriously. So now, at this point in my life, well, luckily I got that message around, mm, maybe I was around 35 years old. I'm trying to remember what year that was, but actually I was a little older than that, maybe around 40, 40
Wow.
something. But yeah, so that, I mean, that's, I lived very seriously until that point. Not that I never had fun. I mean, that's not the point, but to get such a profound message like that, it's period. It's not, we're not supposed to suffer. Suffering is it, what the message that I've gotten more than once now is that suffering is actually, it's not necessary.
Mhm, mhm. Wow, so that is really and from your upbringing, I imagine that having that experience with spirit, with source in that moment had to not only profoundly change the message that life is fun, but your whole like relationship and idea of what spirit is and what life is.
Yes, totally.
And were you
Like,
still, no, you were Jehovah's Witness till you were 28, right?
correct. Yeah. So it
And
took, there's been lots of little things between 28 till to this point, and then obviously from then until now. I mean, there's been a constant readjustment about what I believe and how I feel about it all. Um, about what it means to be in this body and what it means to be a human being. Obviously there's things that happen that create emotions that we could say are negative, but I look at it really differently now. I look at all the emotions that I feel. Like earlier today I had a moment of feeling sadness. about a subject I was talking with a friend about, and it's not, I don't view it the same way as I would have in the past, that things were happening to me in a negative way. Now I feel it, and I feel like it's such a privilege to get to experience all the things as a human being that we experience, like the feeling of water running over our bodies, or and I'll speak for myself, like when I'm experiencing anything now, I think I feel it more
Mhm.
and I enjoy it. Even sadness, like even the feeling of sadness and the tears will come out of my eyes, is like it's different than it's ever been before. And now I think it's such a privilege to get to experience life. So
And so when you say, you talked about that we're really not here to suffer, like how does that translate? Like, like when you talk about feeling sadness and the tears come, like what is different now with your perspective on sadness as maybe it was before? Like if you would feel sadness and tears, like what's kind of the
yeah.
mindset that has shifted for you?
Yeah, I think now everything that I experience is, it's not connected to judgment, for sure, because that was a big part of my upbringing, is a this concern that even my thoughts, if they were not in alignment with righteous righteousness, or what Jehovah's Witnesses at least taught me to be right and what would be considered wrong, if my thinking was off track, I had shame or guilt around that, and now I don't have any of that. So now, and it's, I guess even what it means to be a good person or a not good person, has
Yeah.
definitely shifted a lot. Now it's more about walking through life with more of a feeling, but not. Um, I think I feel myself through life, but I recognize more so when I move to do something, and a lot of, like, even small things, like if I don't move that right now, I'm probably going to knock it off and it's going to break, or like those kinds of like messages to just do it right now.
Yeah.
I pay attention more to what kind of drops in.
Mm,
Um, but when it comes to sadness, so back to your question, so about not suffering, I think how I view things that would have normally felt like extreme suffering or sadness in the past, now I mean, that's a great question. I to find the words for it. I just don't suffer the same way as I did in the past. I think I look at everything as, like, even if I was to lose a really close loved one, I don't. And I have lost my brother a few years ago. Um, when I think of his, it's interesting because I feel closer to my brother in now than I did when he was in his body. So I don't suffer his loss like I would have if I lost my brother when I was still a Jehovah's Witness, for instance. The grieving process as a Jehovah's Witness is completely different than how I would go through that now. Like, as a child, I never lost. I'm trying to remember, even I didn't lose a grandparent before I left Jehovah's Witnesses, but when I think about when people did lose somebody, there was a lot of shame around feeling sad about the loss of somebody, which is also interesting, but it was such a different way of thinking and believing. So their belief is that people are going to be raised, like, or brought back to life with this huge resurrection
yeah.
down the road, that they're basically asleep in death. And but the Jehovah's Witness teaching is very different. So grieving someone in the Jehovah's Witness belief system was, it was, yeah, I watched people really suffer with that because they were feeling so much emotion, but they had to show up at church with a smile on their face and be completely fine with this trust that their loved one was asleep in death and would be resurrected later.
Wow.
To back to human life in that supposedly basically same body.
Yeah.
It's a very different belief system. Yeah.
And yeah, and it's so interesting because here you're feeling closer to your brother, like on the other side, and which so it's kind of like there's a disconnect between what you're told to believe and what you just naturally want to feel, and therefore you when you when you can't actually allow yourself to feel that, like you going back to what you said about judgment, there's a judgment around what you feel, but when there's not, it's almost like you can just step back and say, oh, yeah, I'm feeling that, but I'm not necessarily suffering, but I'm having an emotion around it,
Yeah.
right? And it's okay, and you just let it, and then it's easier for it to like process through rather than if you have to deny it, pretend it's not there, or feel guilty about it. That just kind of that the judgment makes it worse, right? Like you really do suffer more because now you're judging yourself for even having an emotion.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. And I know you had said something earlier that brought me back to like one of the things that would be interesting to discuss would be feeling versus thinking, like going into that, what does that mean for you?
Yeah. Well, I was always very much in my head,
Yeah.
like through my life, definitely. Always trying to sort things out and worrying about definitely what others thought about everything, and when I had the fear of God too, and my parents and all those things, that was always reeling around inside, but definitely being a people pleaser kind of person. And my career path, I'm a hairstylist, so very much in tune with what people's needs are. And but now the feeling part of me, and changing it over, because of course our brain is always thinking thoughts, and even when we're meditating, to 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 really settle our brainwave state down, it takes practice.
Yeah.
um, so now though, the feeling thing, and it's a practice too, and I'm getting better and better at paying attention to like what am I feeling and what feels good, and like those thoughts that drop in, and acting on them. It's definitely a new way of living, and I'm practicing it more and more. I'm not perfect at it, that's for sure.
Right, right.
Not that we ever will be, like human being in this human life experience, there are things that come in that influence that, but yeah, I definitely live more with feeling, and now with my business, and even how I interact with other people, it's different than it ever has been. And I feel the energy of every interaction. um, like I pay more attention to how I feel and like what's going on, and how we do get to we do get to navigate situations. We have a lot of influence over how things go with others,
Yeah.
and if we pay attention to the mood, and but like definitely in conversations with others, I know that when things start to maybe go down a path that doesn't feel good,
Yeah.
we have the ability to change it,
Yes.
and get it going maybe to in a direction that feels more, well, just feels good, you
Yeah.
know.
More fun.
Exactly. Exactly.
Higher vibrational. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So paying attention to those things, and because it's important to me when people are around me that they feel good, and when they leave for sure and they're reflecting back on time with me, I want them to feel good about it. I don't want them to be like, you know, that felt yucky, you know. So it's
Yeah.
important to me. Yeah.
That's so amazing too, because it's not just about doing their hair, right? It's about like the connection.
Yeah.
And I feel like when we because I can relate because of doing massage therapy for so many years, it was very much the same, like the conversations. And when you are conscious of those conversations and what you're how you're I found that when I'm thinking about what somebody's saying, there's more judgment. When I'm feeling what they're saying, there's more of a heart connection, a compassion. Like the words don't like matter as much, but you can really play with and shift the energy when you're feeling, and you can really more tap in to the other person and to the interaction and the connection itself. And it just feels like a lot more, I don't know, connected, I guess is the word.
Yeah.
And and I know when I get my hair done with Tanya, I always leave feeling amazing because we have these amazing conversations, which I'm like, I want to bring them all into this podcast. And I'm realizing, like, oh my goodness, I mean, it would be hours and hours of all the amazing things we've connected on, and the amazing stories of our own um, spiritual growth, and and the things that have happened to influence that growth.
Yeah.
And with family, with kids, with parents, with religion. And it's just, you know, I don't know. I know Tanya's had some really profound experiences in her life that have completely redirected your life. And
Yeah, just gratitude, like you find looking back, in the past, I would have said, oh, like I could have done without that,
yeah,
But really, the truth is that all of these things that happen, through a lifetime, um, it's all perfect, and I'm grateful, and I'm really grateful for all of it. I'm really grateful to know what it was to be a Jehovah's Witness, and I'm really grateful to know all the things that have happened, even though they're things that people would view potentially as really like negative things. I've been married and divorced twice, and I've had 3 children that their father situations haven't been the best, and I've made choices that, but I really understand that all of it is perfect.
right.
And the things that my children have learned as a result is perfect, even though in the past I would have said, this is terrible what's occurred, but now I know that the things that they've experienced have given them information to draw from, like for how they live now and how they see the world and how they appreciate things, and like really, when you don't know those things, your appreciation level could be diminished. I don't know, but I think it's I, yeah, I think it's all perfect. That's how I feel about life now.
Yeah, yes, yes. And it's kind of amazing to look back in hindsight and to see it from another perspective, from that perspective that everything was perfect and how much everything was being prepared for you in these moments to take you through them with ease and grace. And even if you didn't feel that at the time, and it's also, like having lost my husband 8 months ago, I can look back on things, on events that have happened and occurred in life and say, oh my goodness, like, wow, if that hadn't have all happened, like my life now would have been so much more difficult. Or I can't imagine if we were living in a place that we thought we wanted to live and then it didn't work out and we ended up here. Or, like, how did we end up bringing so much stuff here, and all that stuff is now supporting me financially selling it. I just, and I'm like, wow, I get blown away sometimes at how much, things I didn't realize were so supporting me, and that we are always supported. And that also my own sense of, like, suffering has completely changed. And my realization that grief, a lot of times, yes, I just allow myself to be sad and grieve. And then on the other hand, I also know that in part my own beliefs are creating that grief, but that's okay. I I it's like there's three me's, the one that's happening here, the one that knows something else, and the other that's, just kind of watching the two. And and having a conversation or mediating or something. It's and I feel like that's how we grow through these things. And I'm curious. So now, with the perspective that, like, everything's perfect, when in the past you'd say, oh, that really stinks. Like, I didn't really need to go through that, did I? Like, how does it change how you approach life now when maybe things come up that in the past you would have said, oh, that's horrible.
Yeah. Um, Interesting. Yeah. There Now I fill my time with so many beautiful things. So I don't experience as much, I guess, what would be considered negative things in the first place. I guess partly because I've created this life, but it's interesting because my time now is I spend it painting, riding horses, sculpting. With the social things that I do, I make choices that are so different than I did in the past, based on the just the knowing of that, like
Yes.
how does it feel, and then making different choices. But when things happen, that because things are going to happen in life that can be perceived as like, whoa, like I don't want to see that, I don't want to look, I don't want to experience that. And so I actually do have something coming up. I have to go back to Canada and I have to go to court. And I could definitely go on about how that doesn't feel good. And I would like to not have that experience, although the way that I'm walking through it is much different than I would have in the past as well. Like I know that everything is going to be fine. Everything is I'm going to go, I'm going to show up at court if that's what happens, or it will resolve in some other way. I don't know yet, but I totally trust that it's going to be fine. And
Yes.
that, like, even if something happens where I leave this body, I don't have the feeling that it will be a negative thing anymore. So that changes everything. Like it changes how I walk into every single thing now. Every single moment forward is like, it's fine, it's good. And if there's whatever comes up, it will be fine. It will be
Yes.
beautiful. It will be something about it. I'll be able to look back. And that's the thing about the unknown future, is that we don't know until we're looking back, like maybe the reasons for it. But yeah, it's I think I look at things so much with more adventure. Um,
Yes.
you know, like, and yeah, just everything, like even the travel, and like when I'm envisioning what's coming, like for my trip to Canada and leading up to this court date, I'm gonna have a really fun time. You know, I'm like I'm thinking about, you know, my time in the airport, and the flight that my first flight will be to, you know, the west coast of Canada, and then I'll go, and I'm not gonna let it be. I just won't allow it to be just about that, like just about the perceived negative court date.
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to enjoy the whole process, and I'm going to show up with the best potential, you know, idea of the outcome. And I think really, I mean, we'll have to talk again after about what came of it, of course. But I'm really actually, I think that something really amazing might come out of this experience. Actually, I know it will, and it's going to be okay. I don't know exactly what it is. Like, I'm very open to seeing what that's all about, you know.
This is so beautiful because you're talking about creating your life, and hear the words that you are using to talk about your experience, your adventure coming up, and that you are going to have fun in it. And you're not going to allow yourself to just go into the fear of, and in doing so, you are creating it. And you said, I know something great's going to come out of it. And so it will.
Right.
That is like and that is really, I mean, to go back to your words about fun, I mean, we are here to have fun and to create. We're creators, and not just artistically or whatever, but every thought that we have creates our life. Every feeling we have creates our life. And to, like, now you're really in the flow of it, and knowing that you're supported by source completely, and your confidence and your, like, sense of empowerment is so bright and beautiful, I have to say.
Thank you. And the emotions, it was just coming to me as you were saying those last words, like even the emotions of like fear or sadness or grief, it it moves us. It moves us to something, what's next, you know? So those emotions, I think, like without them, because we're not supposed to just be sitting here like a lump of nothing, you know, like we're supposed to be moving. um, and one of the things that I have experienced is being in a cycle of creating the same thing over and over with different people, but creating the same atmosphere and the same outcome for myself time and time again. And I was thinking about this earlier today, how I don't want to stay in a cycle of choosing, like, definitely the same romantic relationship for myself. So right now I'm single, and until I feel like I'm going to create something different than what I've had in the past that didn't feel good, I really want to create something without overthinking it, but I want to feel that it's going to be different, and it will be. And
Yes.
until I have that feeling, I'm happy to stay single.
I gotcha. I know. I've been there.
You
That
know, I definitely
feeling.
desire to have a partner. Like I want to have somebody to have that relationship with.
Yes.
Um, and I know that it's on its way, but I'm going to pay attention to the way that I feel when approaching that in my life again. And
Yes,
so,
because you're familiar with the old pattern and how that feels, and you'll recognize, like, the new and brighter feeling
yeah.
will come with the relationship that you really do want, right? Yeah, it's
Mm.
beautiful. And this, well, I want to say, because there was one other thing that you brought up, and was fear of vulnerability. That one of the things that you're kind of that you're working on right now is fear of vulnerability. Can you speak to that a little bit and how that's kind of playing out?
Yeah. You know what's great is the other people that I share life with, like my children and good friends like yourself. When I think the reason that that was kind of my point, or like my talking point for that is like what is like part of the shadow is that I don't always really step into like real love. Like I have a little bit of I feel it within myself where I'm holding or I'm protecting myself. I'm protecting
Yes.
my heart, I guess, for lack of a better word. And people have commented on it that they feel it. They feel that I'm holding back, and it comes from my parental relationships, and I know that.
Yes.
Um, and I've done a lot of looking at that, even in recent times. So I recognize that, and I really, it's another thing that's still perfect, and like I'll think, well, I'm letting my guard down when I step into certain things, but still there's some adjusting
Mhm.
to do in that regard for sure, and really allowing myself to fully let someone see me, like
Yeah.
see like. But and something else that I've experienced though is with every interaction there is a different energy that's created. So when it comes to friendship, or I have 3 children. With each of my children um, I have a very different relationship with each one of them, you
Mhm.
know
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
so and it's that way with every single other person, and I mean everything, our interaction with animals or our interaction with nature, it's always a different feeling. So I guess it's also maybe being a lot softer with myself would be a good thing to do. And not expecting to never like feel guarded, and maybe not maybe I think probably that sense of protection I'm supposed to pay attention to, and and recognize that I'm not supposed to give myself fully to certain situations too, instead of um, instead of being like that's a bad feeling, that guarded, or a negative feeling. Like we said, it's all perfect, and
Yeah.
it's helping to direct our path.
Yes.
So I guess that it's interesting having this conversation, because it's helping me to see, well, when I have that feeling to guard my heart,
Mhm.
instead of being like no, like fully open, maybe in that moment that's a no,
Yeah.
that's an indication to move away from that situation, gently.
Yes. Yes. That's your discernment.
Yeah, yeah,
Because yeah, I think there is a like there's a purpose in that having that protective mechanism and to
sure,
discern and so it's interesting like uh tying that in with the romantic relationships from the past, right, and now wanting a different kind of relationship, and probably where you will have that feeling of being able to really be vulnerable, and you'll know it, like when you
yeah,
feel yourself soften with yourself. Yes. And as you're able to do that, then that I feel like that person, that right person that you can also do that with, will
mm-hmm.
be there. And that you are doing that in particular friendships where you're you know because I have felt like that with you very much. Like there have been times of great vulnerability, and it's so heartwarming, and because we've had so many talks and so many like great discussions that we get into this deepness of emotions and sharing of painful things in the past, or and so I guess I'm just like babbling on.
No, no,
But I mean,
I really appreciate this conversation because that's the thing about finding words um, for feelings because I like in the past I would be like thinking too much about, well, what am I doing wrong? You
uh,
know, and why am I not maybe someplace else in my life?
right, right.
But really, when I think about, you know, all the years of this particular life and like really all the places I've been and all the things that have occurred and been created by me, and it's a lot, you know.
Yes.
I don't really know where I think I should be other than exactly where I'm at because I'm very happy where I'm at. But it's like the idea of a romantic partner, like as in that subject specifically, is, you know, when you admire others that maybe, you know, appear to be in such a happy relationship, for instance. And I think, well, that's something that's missing, you know, in my experience right now. But it's really great because I do recognize that there's a lot that's happening for me right now that if there was another energy in my space, like, you know, if I had that relationship right now, I would be sharing, you know, sharing my environment with that energy, and it would potentially and actually knowingly change everything. And I think I'm shifting my own energy to be more available for what I really, really want in a partner.
Yes.
So I know it's perfect. You'll, you know, I'll overuse that word today, but
Everything's
it,
perfect.
it's perfect. It sometimes can sound like a lot of fluff, but honestly, I feel like this period of my this little segment that I'm in right now is it's great, and even having this conversation with you today, like it's clarifying things about even vulnerability, like the feeling of vulnerability. If I'm feeling whatever, like my description of that word, you know, that feeling inside of myself where I'm holding back,
Mm-hmm.
that's perfect too. I should hold back if I'm feeling that.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when other people are pointing it out to me, like has happened, you know, where people have said, I feel like you're holding back and they want me not to. But when I'm thinking about it right now, it's good that I was and that I did,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because something wasn't jiving, you
Right.
know?
Yep.
So so really at the end, it's interesting because all those feelings, and I think I'm getting clearer about the feeling of things and how that is moving us down
Yeah.
the river, you know, to wherever, you know, wherever we're going next. So
Yes.
um, so yeah, I like it.
Well, it's such an important conversation, honestly, talking about being prepared for the romantic relationship that you really want. Because so much of that is about uh like being so like knowing yourself so well and loving yourself so much that there the attraction, the relationship that you attract isn't to kind of compensate or make up for anything lacking. It is you are attracting a mirror to yourself, right? When you really love yourself and you attract someone that really loves themselves and you're able to come together in that way, it's so beautiful. Rather than, like you said, like if you had somebody come into your life, a little too soon before you're ready for this, you're in this perfect place with yourself. You're really like, it's like you're really coming into um, the fullness of Tanya, right? And when you do that, then when you attract, it's like, wow, this is amazing. Like we're just on this track together. We complement each other. We're not making up for it. We're not trying to pull anything from each other that's lacking in ourselves. That's
Right.
where codependent relationships happen. And sometimes people just don't want to do the work. They just think, I want someone to love me. Well, when you love you, you're not really looking so desperately for someone to love you. And,
Right.
I've been there before meeting Rick. It took me 45 years before I was like, and I actually had this conversation with myself. Can I? Because I actually had a friend tell me, oh, Jennifer, you're almost 50. And if you don't find someone by the time you're 50, and I was like, are you kidding me? Are you telling me like my life's over? And so like I kind of thought about that and I was mad, that she said that to me. But then I was like, well, if I am destined to be alone my whole life, can I be happy? And I decided in that moment, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's still not my preference, but I decided that. And literally within 6 months, I met Rick.
Oh, I love that.
And so
Yeah.
it was sort of like that. Like I'm everything I need right here. I'm good. And if this is my destiny, it is. And then that letting go is what like release that flow of energy to attract that and to bring your heart's desires of the love that you want. And I just feel like it's such a great conversation to have when people are so focused on just wanting that relationship and you're not getting it, you know, maybe source, life, whatever you want to say is prompting you to focus on the relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
And you have and even in the short amount of time I've known you, like you really have blossomed in that so much. It's so beautiful,
Thank you.
beautiful to see. I and
Thank
I mean that from my heart. Like I really, it's just been amazing to see you go through. I've seen you go through some difficult things, and what you've done with it is amazing and beautiful and magical. And
you. Yeah, the interactions that that we have, and like you said, with certain people, you feel like you really like you're like the true essence of who you are, like can just be like completely exposed.
yes,
Um,
yes.
and yeah, and I definitely feel that with you as well, and I really appreciate the way that you also have shared with me the things that you've experienced, with the loss of Rick, and the loss of Rick,
Yeah,
and
exactly. We
and
talked about
even
that
as words
too.
come out, it's like, no, that's the wrong word. but
No, but I
but
know.
but the transition, that the all the things that have happened, and like just how we have arrived where we are, and it's really cool to be able to speak super freely about all of those things, and feelings and possibilities, and just it really yeah, to me it's such a gift, and I'm so happy to know you, and thank you.
So happy to know you too. And it makes life fun.
It really does.
And I would like to acknowledge a great, I just want to say it takes a lot of vulnerability to come on a podcast and talk and share about the things that you have today. And I just want to thank you so much, acknowledge it. And I'm just so grateful for you, Tanya.
Thank you.
You. Yes, yes. Well, stay on with me a minute. Is
Okay.
there is there anything else like you have a burning desire to share or to say with the audience before we?
Yeah, I'm gonna share the way I'm feeling right now, because like the beginning of the podcast, there was certain nervousness about, like where's this conversation gonna go, and like what's gonna come up, and just allowing, which was really, really great. I thought I was going to have like take some notes, maybe some points like that, maybe. And then I thought, no, like just let's see where this goes because we always have such great conversations anyway. But also, like the feeling in my body through the conversation has really changed. I feel, in the beginning, I had like tightness in my body, and now it's gone. Like it's released. And I think that discussing things and like really getting and that vulnerability word like of just it's like sharing all of this stuff is it's a very positive thing to do and finding words for what's going on and like even as we were breaking those things down it I feel it in my body and I
Wow.
feel it very like almost like I'm one with this chair right now like I feel so relaxed and a heaviness like a very positive um relief in my body from the beginning of the podcast to now and so that's what I want to share.
Awesome. It's perfect. I love
It
that.
is and it was very fun and really the truth is that life is supposed to be fun, period. And so all the emotions are they're carrying us somewhere, they're taking us to the next place and if we allow it to.
Yes, yes. Beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you so much, Tanya. Thank you for being my guest and being here and being vulnerable and especially for being an amazing friend. I love you.
Love you too and thank you so much for your friendship and
Yes.
see what's next.
Yes, we'll see what's next. Part
Thank you
two,
again.
stay tuned.
Right, exactly. Enjoy the rest of your day, Jennifer.
Yes, you too. What